hoping today a bit the opposite is true. We have guys on who are legends and icons in their particular spaces. I know you know them. John, I know you're excited about this. We spoke about it. Rachel, our other producer, I know that the wrestling and fighting world is new to you. I dying to talk with you afterwards to hear what you think about getting to know two guys who I've known for a long time, who don't know each other, which always makes this fun. Joining us today on Talking Tough, the iconic and legendary from the mixed martial arts space, UFC on down, Wes Cabbage Correira, and the equally legendary and iconic Rob Van Dam. Guys, very happy to welcome you here on Talking Tough.
Thank you.
Happy Friday, Rick.
Hey, Rob, how you doing, buddy? Long time no see, guys, both of you.
Yeah, true that. Hey, did DC really have a character named Elongated Man?
Oh,
right,
dude,
that was like their version of Mr. Fantastic, yeah?
Yeah, Wes knows the Elongated Man. See?
But didn't they have Plastic Man? Or
yeah, they have Elastic Man too.
Yes. All right, Wes, you know this stuff. All right, now I'm going to bore everybody. Do you remember the real name of the Elongated Man? Ralph Dibny. Who cares, right? Anyway, yeah, that was a good one, Rob. Yeah, to those of you out there, Rob owned a very successful comic book shop back in the day.
It wasn't very successful. Well, it depends on what perspective you take. It was perspective in the angle that it brought a lot of joy to some fans, a lot of pro wrestlers, and get pictures taken with them. But on the business sense, it was not successful. It burnt a big hole in my pocket for, I don't know, 2.5 years or so. And then I finally pulled the plug.
Yeah, things aren't always as they appear to be on the face of things, are they? Especially in business.
Well, I was a baby. I mean, I honestly, Rick, I look at until just a few years ago, everything prior, I had I feel like I had a mindset of a child. I feel like I got divorced, and then I got all of a sudden my priorities changed. It was like comic books and all my action figures and stuff that I carried around my whole life. I was like, you know what? When I get rid of the house, start a whole new life. Priorities were so different. It was like I didn't care about certain shit as much anymore, and that was part of it. I don't remember what I was talking about.
So did you get rid of your action figures? That's what I need to know.
Yeah, I kept some of the ones that are, real important too. I had 2 display cases full of Ghost Rider shit. Everything trademark on it. Every statue that you've never seen, figure, and I had every cameo that he did in any comic book, even if he was on a TV screen in the background of a Fantastic Four number 474. I run it down and shit. So
it was cool.
Yeah, but I don't follow it that much anymore. The whole thing.
I love that stuff. I never got into it myself. I've only ever owned one action figure, and there it is, right there. And
nice.
Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Nice.
Hey, Wes, where can we get a Cabbage action figure, man? Did they make one?
Only back in the early '90s, the Cabbage Patch Kids.
There you go. That was modeled after you. Oh, that's awesome.
Nice.
Right.
Hey, Rick, when I said that my perspective, was young, I wasn't referring to the way that I liked comic books or action figures. I was referring to the way that I handled my business.
I figured I was just
store like an idiot, and even my time in WWE. When I think back to it, I really felt like I don't know, like I was, they say when you're a kid that gets into the entertainment business, you stop growing up at that age.
Yep.
I think that happened to me right out of high school. I felt I had this high schooler state of just recently.
Always, and I figured you were talking about perspective, and
okay.
I think the subject of growing up would actually be a good one for us to tackle these days. So, we hear from so many people that just feel like stuck in their lives right now.
Growing up? Who talks about growing up? I just hunted down this at a store. I just had to hunt down this G.I. Joe figure at a store.
Right on
Who
cue, man. Right on cue.
who has
Well,
who has time to grow up?
Wes, if anything, you're like growing down, man. Everybody. I told Wes when he first came on, we were talking for a minute or two. Yeah, I don't recognize you. You have lost so much weight. You look like a different person. So you're taking care of yourself, right? That's a good sign of growing up, I would dare say.
Right? Definitely. I wish I would have learned this stuff earlier in my career. I think I would have done something better. You know what I mean?
What did you learn? What did you learn though about matching your diet to your blood type? That sounds fascinating.
I learned that my blood type, A positive, you have a hard time breaking down red meat. So with me, my proteins come from chicken, turkey, and fish. And then I have to eat a pineapple enzyme to help get that same enzyme that the has to help me break down my food.
Mm,
But
wow.
so what I did research in when we started doing that is people with Asian blood, like true genealogy, they have some kind of allergic reaction to milk. I mean, it won't cause them to get hives or anything, but because back in the days they only used to drink it when they used to milk the cow. They never refrigerated it, drank it for breakfast, you know, lunch, you know, had it like 4 times a day, 5 times a day, drank it with cookies and milk. So a lot of Asian people have a lot underlying dairy allergy that they don't really know about.
So you've like broken it down into science. So here's a question I want to ask you. So there are so many people stuck at home right now. We all know why. And I keep hearing and reading things about how people are just eating like crazy, gaining a lot of weight, getting out of shape. Wouldn't this be like a good time to reverse that trend?
It would, but what a lot of people are doing is they're just stress eating because they're so stressed at staying at home. You know, that's the only way they can find comfort in themselves is by stuffing their face with some Twinkies or a tub of ice cream, you know?
All right.
When in
And
actuality, if they would get up and try and do something, I mean, you can't even get up. Some people's houses are too small to exercise in, you know, but if they could have a reason or a way to get out and exercise, a lot of these people wouldn't be just staying home and just getting fat, you know?
so you guys and Rob, if you would chime in on this also. So let's say there's however many people out there are watching this right now, and they're stuffing their face with Twinkies. What's something they could do? Rob, you've kept your physique all the years I've known you, more than 20 years now. I don't think you've gained a pound. I still weigh the same. I've always weighed. So we're all three of us are doing pretty good. What could you guys tell somebody out there that's stuffing their face and getting fat that they can start doing tomorrow to turn that around?
I think one important thing is the mindset, and they really have to have a reason to do it. Like right now with the pandemic, people are quarantined. It seems like there's no reason, no rhyme or reason for anything. If you don't have a job or anything, it doesn't matter what time you go to bed. It doesn't matter if you don't get dressed or shower for days. But if you really think about the mindset of why, you know, why you want to focus on your health, because that's what it is. It's not just about look, but it's inside you too. People sitting around, maybe they think, well, it doesn't matter. I got time to put on some pounds. I'll work on it later. But yeah, I mean, your heart suffers from it. You got to. People aren't keeping track of their blood pressure and their heart rate and stuff like that. Really, the mindset, like find a reason, like to be healthier. For us, it's our job. We have to keep working out so that we can do our job. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's really part. Sometimes I hate it, but I don't want to die in the ring for me.
Right?
Yeah. But sometimes, just being around and being healthy for your family, or even just you, just because if nothing else, the benefits of feeling good when you work out, it releases those endorphins in your brain. You feel good. That happens every single time.
Yeah.
And that's really worth taking home. I get up at 7 each day. I have an hour practice I do in the morning, a little bit of exercise, a lot of like internal motivation or meditation. It's a little different every day, but I can tell you, I do that religiously now. I will not look at my email, my text messages, my Facebook, any of that until that's done. And I'm not trying to put myself over, as we say in the wrestling world. It's more that before I was doing that, I think I was going the route of what we hear is so prevalent now, which is all this shuttered depression. So, Wes, you mentioned there's people don't have space in their homes. A mutual friend of myself and Rob, Diamond Dallas Page, and this is not an infomercial for DDP yoga, but it's a practice that I do, and you can do it on your TV screen. If people are watching us right now, it means they have an internet connection, so they could get DDP yoga or any other number of programs and stand in front of their TV. Doesn't take any more than 4, 5, 6 feet around them, and do something. Look, you don't have a fight booked right now.
I mean, like, everybody will have an excuse on why they cannot do it. The best thing, like how Rob said, look at your kids. You want to be there for your kids to graduate, learn healthy eating habits, learn better things to take care of your health. You know what I mean? Look at your kids. If you want to be there for graduation, you want to see their grandkids, start eating healthy.
All right. So how old are you now? Do you mind saying, Wes?
I'm 40.
You're 40.
Yeah.
And again, you look amazing. I still can't recognize you. I'm shocked how different you look.
Thank you.
You do not have a fight booked coming up right now, right?
No, I was talking to Bare Knuckle, but because of all this COVID stuff, like, they put it on hold.
Okay, so you don't have a fight coming up. Rob is working regularly. So Rob, as you mentioned, has a professional reason to look the way he looks. I'm sure, Rob, you would keep in shape otherwise, but you do have that motivation.
I like to think so, but a lot of times it really is like it feels like a part of just a job, especially if my body's hurt, because I'm over the years I beat myself up pretty good, so I got pains that kind of change from one body part to the other and float around and things like that. And sometimes that gets in the way of really enjoying working out because my body hurts, and I don't, want to work out. And sometimes it's just like, oh, but I have to do it, and so sometimes I do, think if I wasn't wrestling, sometimes I do think, wow, then I wouldn't have to work out. But you're right, I would still do it. I don't know what would push me, but something would. I want to be.
Yeah, I know you would.
Yeah.
And Wes, so
Yes.
last word on this subject, then we'll move on to something different. You're 40 years old. You do not have a fight coming up. So this is a choice you have made to change your look, to change your physicality.
Congrats.
You have 30 seconds, as we say in the wrestling world, to cut a promo, to preach. What can you tell people that they can start doing to better their day tomorrow?
Better day tomorrow. Just start off by taking a few steps, start walking, look into trying to eat to your blood type. It's super simple to do. I lost like 100 pounds in less than like 4 or 5 months, and it just came off of me. And now when I try to even eat red meat, I can't even stand to eat it.
All right.
That's a good thing.
Oops.
Oh, there, you're back. We lost you for a second, Wes.
That way, when it does happen, when you do be able to go inside there, you know what to do already. You're already 1 foot in the door with already changing your eating habits. And another thing is, another way they can start changing their eating habits, instead of eating 3 big meals a day, eat 6 smaller meals.
Yeah.
And drink at least a gallon of water a day, so that way your metabolism is never stopped. Your metabolism is always going, so it never stops.
And these are all simple things anybody could do. So thank you.
If somebody told you to drink 8 glasses of water, you'd give a hard time to drink 8 glasses of water. But if somebody told you to drink 4 or 5 beers, you know what I mean? The beers would go down way quicker than the water,
Oh yeah, or eight beers, right?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So guys, I mentioned I don't like doing politics or getting into confrontational stuff here on Talking Tough. But who do you think would win in a tag team MMA match? Cabbage Correira and Joe Biden versus Rob Van Dam and Donald Trump. I'm just kidding, man.
No, fuck that. I'd rather team up with Rob Van Dam and fuck both of them up.
That's the right answer. Yes. Love it. Thank you.
Hey, Rick, to add, what somebody can take to do steps in the right direction. I don't know if I have a documentary on Amazon called Headstrong, and it's really personal. I take you through some of my deeper, darker moments. Like right when I started filming this, well, I talk about concussions. I had and through the whole fucking movie, actually, thinking back to it now, and it wasn't supposed to be about that, but the movie became about that. But also, I just a few months, kind of dug myself out of this hole where I was really down because the marriage collapsed, and then my dog died, and then my dad died, and I was like, man, sometimes I can relate to people when it comes to depression. Most people don't know, and when I have the right platform or whatever, I'll talk a lot more about it. But I know people that have depression, they have people all the time just say, well, what do you have to be depressed about? And they don't understand. A lot of it really is brain chemistry and hereditary. And a lot of it, a lot of it you can choose. You can choose what you think about, but still, a lot of people. Um, meds are some people actually do meds for their brain. And either way, um, what I was going to get to though is even though I knew, I'm always going to be left and show. I get love everywhere I go. I know everything's always going to be cool, but I still couldn't get out of this funk where I was in, where nothing seemed to matter. And a friend of mine, was saying, just one day at a time. And I remember thinking, like, I can't even think to the end of the day. I was drinking a lot at that time, and I was like, just trying to kill all my thoughts. And then a friend of mine, I'll always remember this, it helped me. He said, sometimes we have to do one moment at a time. And that's what got me out. I was like, well, I can enjoy moments. I can't, make myself feel overall. I can't convince myself that I'm happy, but I can enjoy moments. And then it was just like really getting into the moment and living in the moment. That helped me so much. Doing things that I did like and really enjoying that moment. And then the more you live in the moment becomes your life.
Where we're going, left or right?
Man, so true, Rob. Thank you for that, man. And we definitely can get a little more into that today. That's what this is all about, for sure. I want to go back just for one moment. You mentioned Headstrong. How would we see Headstrong?
It's on Amazon. There's also a DVD that you can get through Target and Walmart and stuff, but on Amazon is the best way. The premise was gonna. Sometimes I do stand-up comedy. We had a week lined up. I was going to be on the road doing stand-up comedy for like 7 nights, and the idea was we'll bring the camera, film the road trip. But I showed up concussed, and at first I wanted to ignore it and just get on with the plans. But my symptoms didn't go away, so the symptoms overtook the agenda of the movie and my life. And so afterwards I had to follow up with neurologists, and I ended up learning so much more about CTE and about concussions, more than I ever thought that I wanted to know. But now I want to share that information because it's the kind of stuff that people don't talk about. And I didn't either. I never told anybody when I was hurt my whole career. If I was knocked silly or something, I wouldn't tell anybody if I wanted to keep working. So that was all on me. But now the cat's out of the bag. Hey, guess what? I had hundreds of concussions, and turns out there could be a price to pay for it. So I want to keep the conversation going, help spread awareness, so we can spread the education, so we can learn how to deal with it. Because I've lost a lot of friends to suicide or drug overdoses. They always lead it back to depression from concussions. That was all motivation with why I opened up my CBD line, because I believe that CBDs or CBG or some cannabinoid, holds a lot of potential that we'll be able to use in a. I have RVD, which is doing great, helping people, which is amazing. But I have yet to get that neurotropin brain formula. That's always going to be my goal until I have it. And then when I do have it, I'm going to always want to improve it and make it better as we learn.
Man, you sound like you're in a really good, positive place these days, man. It's like it's so nice to have somebody on and to see that, especially someone that struggled. Uh, that you mentioned almost casually in one sentence, you got divorced, you lost your dad, you lost your dog. How how dark? And I don't want to dwell on this, but it's to make a point to people out there. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, how dark and depressing did it get for you at one point?
With 10 being the darkest.
Yes,
Uh, Probably an 8.
that's pretty high, man. That's debilitating for sure.
Yeah.
And, and you made choices, like you said, living in the moment. You can't well always can't help what we think, as you said, but oftentimes we can. And I don't know how you did it, how you got yourself out of it step by step. But man, I'm just really glad to see that you are where you are right now. That's fantastic, Rob.
Yeah, thank you. It's great. For me, the longer I'm alive, the better life gets. When the whole thing with the marriage, I was trained and I told myself that it was a failure, but I'm so glad now that I was released from that because it's so much better now. And where I thought I was happy before, now I know I was content. I really hadn't experienced what I needed to experience out of life. Like everything is just, I just feel like I'm so much more in tune with life, so much wiser, not as held back. It was just, I was married to a very insecure person, and the kind that like if I looked in the direction of another good-looking girl, we were fighting. What do you?
Hmm.
Oh my God, it was like that, and a lot of people can relate to that, but. Not being in that anymore because that was like too big of a part of it. I mean, it was really like we really didn't fit as good. It's amazing we lasted as long, but man, when just right when I met Katie, which there was a little time in between, where I was enjoying a lot of moments. But when I was with Katie, it was just like the first date out. I just treated it like I'd known her for a long time. I was just so into the moment. I was just like, whatever you want to do, you're the boss. And I was just like so happy because I wasn't worrying about the rest of the day or the rest of the night or I didn't worry about how I was going to drive home. But it was really just I learned to just really live in the moment and to realize when it's a really good moment. Like, wait, hold on a second, dude, this is a really awesome moment. I want it to just last as long as it can. And eventually those really good moments took up all the time and filled up the space, so there wasn't room for the bad moments.
Man, it's like it's so nice to hear this. And people I've heard people say oftentimes that, oh, live in the moment. That's a cliche, but it's so not cliche. And what's worked for me a lot, and I have a long ways to go till I'm there or wherever there is, and who knows if I'll ever get there to nirvana or whatever it is. But I know that no matter what's going on, the more I could be grateful, gratitude practice for something happening now, and you can always find it no matter what's happening. You're talking about reprogramming your brain, man. That's what that does.
And some people do need meds. I'm the only one in my family that didn't take meds. My mom, my dad, my brother, and my sister all took Prozac or Zoloft, and I was the only one that didn't. But I've been smoking weed since I was 21. I figured maybe I was self-medicating or whatever. But yeah. But dude, I
So
got I got to a point, Rick, where I needed help up. I was so far down that like I would just start crying and I wouldn't even know it was coming. I'd be talking to someone, start crying, mention my dog or something, just start crying, and then I couldn't stop, and it was horrible. And I got on some meds, and holy shit! All of a sudden, I got connected my whole life. I could talk about stuff that I never was able to talk about. And I just wonder, if I had the balance younger, earlier in life, how much different things would have been. Choices would have been made from a different perspective. It's like it was really, really, really hard to do, to admit to myself, to physically, literally pick up that phone. Very difficult. And so now I know what it's like for people that don't want to say that they don't want to get help, or they think that there's something wrong with them because they should just be able to kick out on their own. Sometimes you need help.
Wes, I'm sure there's nothing in what Rob's saying that you can relate to, right? Smoking a little reefer, maybe,
That
maybe women who are possessive. We would never find that in Hawaii, would we?
oh fuck no, you got a lot of them over here.
I know, man. Believe me, I know. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
Who was that? Who was that? You just didn't tell hi to.
Oh my God, dude. Yeah, that was so. But and then I would get offended by it because I was actually being faithful and being honest. You know, like the entire
Yeah.
time, even though it wasn't returned. You know, and then things like that would bother me more than they should because it wasn't just she thinks I'm looking at that girl. It was like she doesn't even know that what she has here, and she thinks that she doesn't trust me. And oh
She
my
starts
God,
assuming and everything, and it just makes it worse. Yeah.
so much unnecessary stress.
so
Yeah.
Wes, I want to ask you, man.
Yes, sir.
You know, people I think regard Cabbage as this like happy-go-lucky guy. That's always been my impression of you.
Yeah.
And we reconnected on the phone not long ago. And one thing I take away from every time we talk, and I never told you this, is like, wow, this guy is always upbeat and positive. That's one reason, like, when I see your name come up in caller ID, I always want to answer the phone. There's some people you see come up, you're like, I'm not up for that today, right?
You're like, I don't want to talk to this negative Nancy.
Yeah, exactly. So, dude, is that your nature, or have there been deep dark times for Cabbage also?
I've had some deep dark times, but I mean, I've always been like this. I've always been the one to try and give as much. Like I told people before, my bridge is made out of iron. Like it's hard to burn this fucker down. Sorry for swearing,
That's
but
all right.
it's hard to burn it down. You know what I mean? If you burn me, I'll give you many chances. You know what I mean? I just have a really big heart.
Aloha.
So,
I have just a really big heart, and it just really doesn't phase me. Like to me, I'll give people a lot of chances because, like I said, my bridge is made out of steel. It's easy to rebuild steel because you still got the structure. You know.
that's okay. So, coming from that place and that attitude, and this is the question for both of you guys.
Yes.
For all the crazy, I know what we do in our world is we're all on social media at least a little bit, and it's pretty impossible to avoid these days people with really strong opinions in one
Yeah.
direction or the other hating on people that don't agree. It is that bothering you guys at all, or is it just roll off your shoulders? I'm really curious for two guys that have it together, that mentally seem strong, emotionally seem strong. How do you look at that?
With me, I just play it off like a leaf in the river. You know what I mean? When people start hitting me with that thing, I'm like, you know how when you see that leaf in the river just floating down, doesn't care in the currents. Hey, I'll go in the tide pool for a little bit. You know what I mean? And it'll kick me back out, and I'll continue my way down the river. You know, sometimes I don't let it bother me. I don't let it phase my character or anything's going on in my day. You know, I just don't have time for that kind of people or that kind of things just going on. It's just been so positive, and it's just good to be positive. You know,
Okay.
people that get angry fast. Hey, smoke a joint. Take some of Rob's CBDs.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's advice. So you know what? I'm gonna ask you guys now personally for advice because I'm quite a bit older than both you guys. I like to think of myself as pretty evolved in my thinking and emotionally and intellectually, but I have to admit the fighting amongst people is bothering me these days. So what can I do? What could you guys advise me to do to not be so bothered about what's happening out there?
I it alarms me that people are so ignorant. It does. And in my mind, it just distances me from them. And I think, oh, that's right. That's what like the status quo, that's how ignorant they are. And it just it furthers my my certainty in my own values, makes me realize like how much more I prefer the way that I live. Uh, because but I don't let it bother me to an extent to where it's actually going to bleed over into my enjoyment of life. There's nothing you can do about it except for debate and
Mhm.
enjoy that. But the thing is, and it's definitely like that, like you were saying with politics. It's anything like that. What that you're saying is just the thought that one side has unshakable certainty that they're right and that the other person is wrong. That alone is just, that alone, if you just think about it, then yeah, that can just bother the hell out of you because they're so ignorant. But you got to choose what you give a fuck about. You can't give a fuck about everything. So you have to really, really think about it, because once you give your thoughts, it works for you and against you. Yep.
John P, are you out there? Dude, John, you know how much of this is bothering me. That was really good advice. Thank you, Rob. I appreciate that, man. That was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
You only have so many fucks to give, so you got
right. Like another one I just learned is time is not given. You know what I mean? Time is not guaranteed. You gotta make use. You gotta make use in everything of what you got right now.
And these, thank you. Stuff that I like to think I know. It's always good to hear it reinforced by people that are living it. That was awesome. Thank you.
I think just you realizing how ignorant people are is enough. Like, if it bothers you, they're not treading on you. You want everyone else to notice it too, maybe, but it's okay to think, wow, my values really are the best. Because really, when you think about it, all of us do believe our values are the best because they're designed for us. They work best for us. And that's why we get into arguments, because we can't understand why other people think differently than us, but they don't have the exact same values or priorities or whatever. So, the conflicts are ridiculous when you just realize that it's about your values. Yeah, what are you going to be bothered about? What are you going to be able to do about it? Unless you want to go kick some people's asses, Rick. Is that what you're thinking about doing? Like, they treat each other bad.
No, actually, I like to avoid that. So that's perfect. That is perfect. Thank you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
If you can't just let the alarm, if you can't just use the alarm to make it better, then maybe blog about them, and I'll comment.
I'll stay away from that. But up till that point, Rob, I loved all of it. Thank you. I'm going to lighten it up and get into some MMA and pro wrestling stuff for a moment here. And I would like to invite on my producer and our resident expert, John Paz, from the Two-Man Power Trip. So, Wes, mixed martial arts, man. You're an icon. You're a legend. You may or may not know this. I've actually been across the cage from you twice. Once when I brought Butterbean to fight you, another time when I brought Tank Abbott to fight you. And and I always remember, my impressions of you. Such a nice guy. I mean, you're out there to win and do damage, as they say. But not only just nice to everybody around you. That it included Tank, it included Butterbean. But what I want to know is what does it take to stand up the cage from a guy like Tank Abbott or Butterbean and go, hey, I'm just here to fight? What's the mentality that it takes to get to that place?
Just a lot of discipline, I guess. Like I was never one to be out there trying to cause trouble or anything growing up. Like, so when I first took up MMA, I was like, oh damn, I used to do jiu-jitsu tournaments and get super nervous, but my first MMA fight was like a walk in the park, So I knew maybe this is what I'm here for, So it was like, I don't know, I never had any problems with that.
It's just part of who you are.
Yeah.
Backstage with Tank one night, and he was there to fight Paul Bontello, who was literally screaming and throwing up in the dressing room next to us because he was all dead before every fight. So that wasn't your experience, though. It came natural to you. You got us, Wes? Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear you guys.
All right, very good, very good. Rob, you're a martial artist. Have you watched Cabbage before? Have you seen Cabbage fight?
I think so, because there can only be one Cabbage, right? Didn't you sometimes have your
That's
hair?
right.
Didn't you sometimes have your hair like different colors?
Yeah, I had it dyed when I fought Tim Sylvia. I had it dyed all
Yeah,
9 colors for September 11th. I had it dyed.
yeah, totally. I've seen you, bro. Definitely kick ass. Yeah, yeah.
But
Oh, you froze, Rick.
Was earlier there was a waterfall right over there, so had a hard time hearing, so I had to walk away from the falls.
okay. John, are we all connected okay right now?
Yeah, all good. You froze for a second, but all good.
You had a really.
What the
Yeah, you should have seen the look on.
magic.
You were frozen, Rick. You should have.
Yeah, yeah. West, I'm up here. I'm in the upcountry of Maui, as we call it, Rob, and there's only one cable company on the entire island, and they don't service the area where I live.
Wow.
So we have to do everything off of hotspot up here.
Wow.
So it comes in, it comes out, but it's part of the beauty of part of taking the bad with the good. I wouldn't trade that for anything. That's for sure. And Rob, you and I first met, I think it was about 2000, and you were, I think you were the first big outside star that ever performed in a UPW ring. Later, we had the Road Warriors, of course, and Rod Piper and Antonio Inoki. I mean, some pretty big names. I remember you came and did a match with Chris Daniels, and I'll never forget it because the ring broke. I don't know if you remember that or not, but the match previous to you and Chris, the ring broke. So the entire canvas and floor was literally like on a 30-degree angle. And you guys worked an amazing match around it. I couldn't believe it. It was pretty cool. But before that,
it happens so often I don't even remember it.
Right, that was a first for us. But I remember the match you guys pulled off. It was really cool. Prior to that, and I'm just saying this to all people that are out there, at a UPW show, we pulled out, John, I think you'll appreciate this. We pulled off a really cool hat trick. We had our merchandise area where people would sign after the shows. And in this particular instance, we had Rob Van Dam, who was the ECW champion at that point. We had Ivory, who was a WWF champion at that point, for women, of course. And we had Sting, the WCW champion. Rob, I don't know if you remember that or not, but the three of you signed side by side. And I've got a photo of that somewhere still. If I find it, I'll have to send it. But just thought I'd bring it up and say it's cool seeing you again 20 years later, man.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of talent came out of that UPW, huh? I mean, besides Cena, the prototype, but let's see who else. Well, shoot. Now I'm thinking of the guy, the big dude that he's dead. I can't remember what the big guy, but I remember trying to working out with these guys in the gym in the ring one time, and it was Cena, Basil. Remember Basil?
Bad boy Basil, who actually had a WWF development deal at one point, but he did pass from a heroin overdose, unfortunately. Yes.
Yeah. It did. Did Victoria come from the area? No.
Victoria, Chris Masters, John Heidenreich, Nathan Jones, The Miz, Luther Reigns. Yeah, it's been a pretty big, and then of course Sting and Warrior way back in the day. So yeah, pretty. It's like I like to say, Rob, that this is worth the record is this. We had 43 people, men and women, come out of UPW that went up to WWF/WWE.
Wow, that's a lot.
That's a record. It'll never ever be in the history of the industry. But I always like to say, so it doesn't feel like I'm bragging, is that and $4 will buy you a medium latte at Starbucks, But it's been a good list, that's for sure.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, definitely.
So Wes, who's out there in the heavyweight division right now that would have been like a great night for Cabbage?
Fuck any one of these guys out there right now. Even as right now as we speak, you know what I mean? I don't see not to take anything away from the guys, but Look, I could give him a run for the money. You know what I mean?
Well, you're
Especially right now at this weight walking around. You know what I mean? I could put on a little bit of weight and I could give them all a run for their money. I could put them all on notice. But they gotta let me smoke herb though, because I got my medical card.
Yeah. I don't. Is that okay with the if you have your card? Can you smoke herb and be cool fighting these days? Do you know?
I'm not too sure. It all depends because so it's a state and like county law that it's legal. It's not federal yet. So unless
Right.
the USADA is federal, they gotta follow the state and county guidelines. You know.
So I'm not putting myself out there as a manager because I don't do that anymore. But let's say we were in touch with Sean Shelby and Dana White, and I'm working a deal with UFC now, so I'm pretty actively in touch with those guys.
Yes.
And they're like, "Wow, look at Cabbage. He looks great. He's 40, which is not old for the heavyweight division. We know that.
Yeah.
Let's let's put him in there with whomever it is to get restarted. Could you give up the herb to do that?
Oh, definitely.
All right.
I'm at such a strong point. My mind is so strong at this point in my life that I could quit anything. You know what I mean? I was addicted to opiates before I started smoking weed and taking CBDs. You know, I got into big trouble taking opiates. You know.
Oh, dude, I'm sure Rob Van Dam and I have never heard about anybody having trouble with opiates before.
Right? Never in their life. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
and then once I
rampant.
turned on to my friend, Chris Taloa, who's from Hawaii, he turned me on to the CBD company, and that helped me actually kick my pain pill habit that I had.
Nice. Have you tried
Really?
them?
What's that?
You tried Kratom?
Is this a company?
I tried
Rob,
Kratom. I tried Kratom before, and Kratom never worked for me.
But because you just tried the capsules, right?
Yeah, I tried the capsules
The
before.
capsules, I find the same thing. Capsules don't work. The powder, however, works great. Works fucking great. It tastes horrible, but like it says to take, I think like maybe 5 grams, and I take like 12 grams. That's a bigger scoop that I use. It tastes horrible, but dude, it works. Like sometimes, like I'm so hurt, that I'll take pain pills for a few days and I eat them, but I'm so hurt. I don't have to take any pain pills if I take Kratom.
Nice.
It really works, but the pills don't. I had to take 50 pills in order to feel like half a scoop. Feels like.
Yeah, those pills don't work at all. Like I tried that. Like I had this guys give me some at this shop here in Hawaii, and they're like, "Here, try this." Tried it, and I was like,
"Yeah,
this
I got
no."
Okay, powder.
Rob, I'd like to dive deeper into this with you, Rob. I agree with you. Everything you've said. Kratom capsules do not work. Kratom powder definitely works.
Yeah.
Here's my concern, though, man. I had a bad go around with opiates myself, Wes, and I've been to rehab twice, good, bad, or indifferent. I haven't taken an opiate in about 3.5 years now. I don't think I ever will again. I've definitely had my share of experience with Kratom. My concern, Rob, and I want to get your take on this, is that Kratom may be every bit as addictive as opiates. What do you think about that?
From my personal experience, I don't find that to be the case. I think that it's safer on you anyway. If you first off, if you are going to be addicted to something, I think it's better to have this coffee plant, as opposed to the hard drug.
We lost Rob for a moment here. There you are.
Do you hear me? Shit.
We got you back now. Yes.
Okay. Marty Jannetty trying to call me and interrupt us. That dude's crazy.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Rob, Marty called me last week.
Yeah.
And he left a voice message for me.
Yeah.
And I listened to it a couple of times. I still have no idea what it says. I like Marty, but wow.
Yeah.
I hope he's okay, man.
Yeah, he is. I think he's just crazy. What? But also, Rick, from my personal experience, I've had where like I was taking Kratom like maybe 3 or 4 times a day. And then if I wouldn't take it for a day, I had this restlessness. That's the most I've ever got. But I was
Mhm.
at nighttime, I'm trying to go to bed, and my muscles just feel like, oh, like I need to stretch. It's very uncomfortable. It releases some kind of a panic thing when I'm laying in bed doing that too. It's weird. But so I thought so at first. I thought, wow, it's just like the Norcos. But then after experimenting with it a little bit longer, sometimes that happens and sometimes it doesn't. And so sometimes
Okay.
I'll be taking kratom regularly, and then I won't take it for a day because I feel good, so I don't need it. And I'm like, I wonder why I didn't feel restless last night, and I slept good. So I find it to be inconsistent in that way. So
Okay.
better odds that you're not going to suffer, I think.
Well, yeah. If you're talking about the worst case, it's lesser of the evils, certainly, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
John Paz, are you out there? If Rob and Wes, if you don't mind, John's always got some cool questions that pertain to the fighting in the wrestling world. And John, I'm sure.
Sure.
Oh, first, Cabbage, Maverick Von Haug, the Soul Collector, is watching, and he wanted me to say hello to you for him.
Tell him what's up. How you doing? Thanks for the support.
Tell him, hey, Rick,
Right.
tell him hello from me as well.
Rob, you know Maverick?
I know the Soul Collector. Yes, sir.
Right on, Mav. Well, hey, a lot of love from Cabbage, RVD, and me to you, my friend, as you're recovering. Talk about a guy who's been through the worst of the worst and always comes back around with a positive attitude. So hats off to you, Mav. John.
Yes.
Hey, buddy.
Hey. So for Cabbage,
John
just always kind of
Paz.
curious about your UFC run. Not as
Yes.
many UFC fights, as you would think. Obviously, you fought the creme of the
My
creme, the
connection
Tank
out.
Abbott's,
Yeah.
Tim Sylvia, Andre
John, take
Arlovsky.
over.
So
My
talk a
connection's
little bit
out, John.
about
Take over, please.
your run in UFC.
My run in the UFC, well, first it started with Tim Sylvia. I guess we were supposed to fight at a heavyweight tournament in Hawaii. I broke my hand, so I couldn't fight him. So Dana White was there. Then there was a fight organization that came to Oahu named, I think it was Shonen. They made me fight Aaron Brink. At the time, Dana White guys were gonna sign back Aaron Brink. They were banking on Brink to smash me. They're like,
Mm-hmm.
this young kid from Hawaii. But then when TJ, the promoter of Super Brawl, he came to the gym and he seen me training, he was like, oh fuck, you know what I mean? This kid is serious right now. And so when I went in there, I fought Aaron Brink. I knocked him out in like the first 30 seconds of the first round. I gave him the ostrich punch, like he straight hit his face in the mat like an ostrich, you know what I mean, after I hit him.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then I won that. Then Dana contacted me, asked me to fight Tim Sylvia. He said that was a fight that was supposed to happen in the heavyweight tournament. I fought him. Like, I didn't even really train for that stuff. My management at the time really sucked. They wouldn't give me like proper time. They would be like, oh, we'll throw him in. Yeah, he's game to fight in 2-3 weeks notice. You know what I mean? Let's throw him in. He's super down to fight. And like me being a young Portuguese guy, I'm down to scrap. You know what I mean? Like right off the teepee, like what we used to say, like take the chicken right off the teepee and fight him.
Mm-hmm.
So I fought Tim Sylvia. I lost that fight, but the crowd loved me because, you know what I mean? They was like, who the fuck is this person? You know what I mean?
Right.
The crowd loved me. Dana White kept in contact with me. Then they made me fight Sean Alvarez. This is when I did the split from Grappling Unlimited. Is when I fought Eddie Alvarez. I didn't know that the Prince wanted to bet with Egan some money because the Prince was good friends with Sean Alvarez.
I love you, baby.
And so Egan didn't want to bet him because he thought that I was going to lose. I ended up beating Sean Alvarez. I found that out afterwards, and I was like, wow, this guy was supposed to be training me, and he had no faith in me. I'm out. Poof. I dug out. I started training. I was living in Maui. I was training in Maui for a little while, where Rick is right now. I was training up there for a couple years. I had the key to Baldwin High School. I used to use the pool and the whole facility. And that's when I fought Tank Abbott. The UFC flew me up to the UFC office up there, and I was training downstairs. I was training with Alex Gong like a week before Alex Gong got murdered. Like he was my trainer training for the Tank Abbott fight. That's why my knees were so crisp for that fight. So what it was is, so during that fight, that training camp, Dana White guys, about, I think it was like 2 weeks out, they were like, hey, Wes, go back home, go see your family, you know, because you've been training hard. Alex is going to go back to San Francisco, go take care of some business stuff. You guys are going to come back in a week. Okay. Alex went up to San Francisco. 3 days later, he gets shot on the street up there, which was shitty. So that way, when my fight came out, that's why I had F14 on top of my shorts when I fought Tank, because that was his logo. That's what he used to put on all his shorts, was F14. Was Alex Gong. So I did that in memory for him. That's why I was just clipping Tank with those knees on that first fight.
And got the big win. And then Orlovsky was next, right?
Yeah, I remember that one.
And then
Those
so
crazy times, man. Wow.
Right. So then with Andre Arlovsky, I was supposed to fight this other fighter. Tim Sylvia tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs. They asked me at the weigh-in if I wanted to step up and fight Arlovsky, and me, you know, being Wesley Cabbage Correira, you know, I was like, fuck yeah, I'm down to fight this guy. You know what I mean? He's just another human being. He bleeds like me. You know, so I took the fight on 5 minutes notice, went in there. I mean, I think I'm the hardest. I probably hit Andre the hardest with a jab that he's ever felt in his entire life. But he still beat me. You know, he caught the angles. You know, they beat me. I had one more fight left with the UFC, but due to breaches in contracts, they cut me off the roster off that time.
Did that one go the distance? No.
With the Arlovsky fight, no, I think it went like 2 rounds or 3 rounds. Okay. Then they stopped it because I got hit behind the ear. I dropped. I was rolling back to get up, and the ref stopped it already.
Right on.
So RVD, got a question for you. So, you know, you go through the WWE, you beat John Cena for the world title.
Yes.
Then you 3 weeks later, you know, they end up giving it up. Just kind of go through like the emotions and you at that point from the highest level of WWE to then 3 weeks later, you know, they have you drop in the title and this, you know, the situation that happened there.
Is that all it was 3 weeks?
Yeah. Yep.
Man, same. Yeah. Well, first off, I never thought that was gonna happen as far as like me being the champion. And it never would have been in my pathway had I not restructured the whole pathway by bringing ECW back.
Right.
You know, I changed the entire playing field. You know, I mean, I'm the best showcasing for ECW, best guy to do that. Otherwise, I'm pretty. I never thought that I would have been, you know, made to the top position. So having said that, until it happened, everybody that's a pro wrestler, I doubt there's any exceptions to this. I think everybody is gonna, at some point in their career, and probably over and over again, they get promised stuff. We're going to do this and this and this. And then boom, it doesn't happen. And so if you let yourself get real excited, then of course you're going to be very disappointed. After a while, you got to either not give a fuck, which is what I did, or else you got to be really good at continuing to fight for that and politicking. And those are guys that get way ahead. But I totally, I think until the finish, till the 1, 2, 3, and then I got the championship belt. I don't think that I thought if something still was going to happen during the match. I totally didn't. So I was excited, you know, as you would imagine, but not like I think most people would, because just the way that I was brought into the industry, I had a lot of my fandom stripped from me. Like I remember back in 1990, the very first time that I got to go inside an actual dressing room, it was in Euclid, Ohio, and the original Sheik, I was one of his boys. You know, he was wrestling Jerry Lawler there, and I wasn't on the card, but I got to go in the back, and Sheik and Sabu told me, and I'm like 19, I guess, 19 years old, and Sheik and Sabu told me, don't say anything to anybody unless you're going to introduce yourself, and then shake their hand, tell them your name. Don't say anything else unless they talk to you, and don't ask anyone for an autograph. Don't mark out you're one of the boys. You're not a fan. No, we didn't even have phones back there to take pictures or anything, but that's how much it's changed. I do shows all the time, and all the wrestlers get pictures with RVD in the dressing room. It's a different time, I guess, but because of that, I never allowed myself to get real excited like a fan would. I would have enjoyed the career a lot more if I could have remained a mark. If I could have been like, oh, cool, Undertaker's dressing next to me, but after that wasn't part of it for me. So even having the championship belt, I think it meant a lot. It meant a lot because of my positioning, and now I see how I go down in history and all that, and how much it's helped me. But at the time, I think I was still so competitive. I probably would have given up the WWE belt and just kept the ECW belt because I stood for that, and that's what I fought for, and that's what got me the win. And things are going like really well, but I mean, I don't remember feeling, like I was on a whole untouchable level. I think I thought of it always as storyline, prop, could last any time, it could be over. I don't know. And still, even with all that, I got pulled over for speeding, and I had 18 grams of marijuana in the car. And because of that bust, I had to drop the WWE Championship belt and the ECW Championship belt, and I was suspended for 30 days. And it did take a little bit to adjust to that, because even with all that conditioning that I've said, I still knew that I dropped the ball, and that it was a pretty major fuck up, So I remember really being bummed those days, the last 2 days when I had to, especially in Philly, because those are my people, ECW crowd.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Then Big Show beat me, and Paul made the count, and the fans were just like so disappointed. They were like all throwing their cups in the ring, and we were getting cups. And I remember just that hurt my heart. I was just like, oh my God, I let all these people down, But right away, I kind of owned it, though. I felt like I owned it right away, and I was like, well, fuck it, it's people like me and Michael Phelps and people like that draw attention to the fact that marijuana doesn't necessarily make you a couch potato. And I looked at it from that point of view. Now I look at it this much time later, as I still don't know how long a championship title would have ran, but that I kind of, if anything, I feel mostly bad for dropping the ball on Vince.
I was there that night in Philly. We were not happy that you lost. Let's put it that way. We were not happy.
I felt that vibe. That was really heartbreaking.
Yep.
Yeah. But those are the emotions, dude. And then I was so burnt out from being on the road with them and that monotonous schedule. At the end of my 30-day suspension, I asked Paul if he would ask Vince to give me some more time off. I'm not gonna do that. He'll be upset. So that happened. Any other questions? There's a lull.
I was going to let Rick.
I
was going to let Rick take back over.
John,
yeah.
Are we all connected okay here?
Yeah.
Yep, we're all good. You froze for a second, Rick, but I was just going to let Rick kind of roll it down.
We're also we're streaming live on Hannibal TV also, and there's one guy that says he's been hiking a lot. Okay, Rob, RVD. By the way, your wife is hot. Mazel tov. I don't know how often you're going to be congratulated in Hebrew for your wife being hot. I think that's cool.
Probably my whole life, because she ain't going anywhere. We're
that's all.
Yeah,
good.
Yeah, my best friends right there, not on the road. So many of the boys have their lives, to me, backwards. Their family's on the road, and that's really their best friend, who they're closest to. and then at home they put up a front, and their wife doesn't even know. The wife has no idea who they're married to. They're home watching the kids. They have no idea that their husband's out snorting cocaine and banging sisters, and it's just I think so many people do that, and
Crazy.
it always seems to end up the same way, you know. And but having said that, I didn't go about it at all like that with me, and mine still got fucked up. But I'm so glad it did. So, but yeah, yeah, it is awesome. We have a great bond, and there's my dad told me don't let anything in between you two. If it's the person you're gonna be with for the rest of your life, like don't go to anyone else and talk about your problems, because it's you two got each other, and that's really all you got. Everything else comes and goes. Kids, jobs, money, houses, everything comes and goes. But if you really want to stay with that one person, and they should be pretty high on your priority list, if not number one. Yeah.
Some more good advice from RVD.
Yes, I'm full of it. I'm telling you, man.
You are.
I could
That you are, man.
pull RVD. I love you, baby.
All right. Well, hey guys, we've kept you more than an hour. It's been really cool to see both you guys. I appreciate having you on at the same time. John, is there anything that you would like to wrap up with in particular?
Hey, Johnny boy.
Nope, all good, Ricky baby, all good.
All right.